America is not a clown show. America is not a circus. America is an idea. I'm tired of common sense not applying anymore. We all know what the problems are. It's tax and spend. One party will tax and spend. The other party won't tax but will spend. It's both of them. We have a right to fail. 15 years ago, I was completely broke, and my whole life was spiraling out of control. Because no one was there, if somebody would have been there to hold me up, I wouldn't have been down here enough to be able to dust myself off and say, no, I'm not going to spend my life here. I'm going to stand up on my own 2 feet, figure it out, and because of that failure, I can stand here today. And we're saying that these people are too big to fail. If you're a bank and you didn't know you shouldn't give a loan to somebody who can't even present a check or a piece of identification, you should fail. To restore America, we need less Marx and more Madison. We just need to learn our own history, learn from our own mistakes, admit that we have a problem, grow a spine, and stand for the right things. Our future is not cast in stone. It does not have to be this way. It does not have to be that the greatest American generation is behind us. It may be a hard day. We may have been all night retching. We are going to go through some tough times, and we are going to be tired as we set things straight. But when we put our head down on our pillow to go to sleep again that night, we can be happy because we know tomorrow it will again be morning in America.
The crowd was just amazing group of people. It was an honor to speak at CPAC this weekend, and you can watch the entire speech, and I invite you to do so at glennbeck.com. But was I sending some sort of secret message about third parties, as I've been accused of today? Find out next. As I ask you to make your own decision on the speech I gave as the keynote address at CPAC, just know this, not everybody was in love with my speech at CPAC. Some are saying I wasn't quite partisan enough, which I intentionally steered away from because this isn't really talking to the Democrats. Seems that some people also think that I was wanting some sort of third party. No, I just think the American people, at least I do, I'll speak for myself, we just want a party that stands for something. You know, it's holding your own side's feet to the fire that delivers a party like that. Sure, it's important to acknowledge the individual Republicans fighting the good fight, and I think we do that on this program. CPAC, they had already done a good job of that. Most of the speeches during the weekend were made by people who I tend to agree with. Not all of them, but some of them. If you watch this show at all, you know that I highlight principled conservatives inside the Republican Party. Jim DeMint's on this show. I think sometimes Jim DeMint's on this show as much as I'm on this show, at least for a politician. I've also said that how much I like Dick Cheney. I don't necessarily agree with him on everything, but do you expect to agree with everybody on everything? The problem is progressivism. Does anyone seriously think that Mike Pence is who I'm talking about when I say Republican progressives? The usually on-the-money American thinker was critical of my speech as well, but in doing so, inadvertently, they made my point for me. When I was talking about not seeing the come to Jesus moment from the Republican Party, they wrote, quote, "He has not heard about Marco Rubio. Rubio is now up 12 points on Charlie Crist among GOP voters." Yeah. That sounds to me like a lot of Florida Republicans admit there's a problem. He's actually up by 18 in the latest poll, but Rubio is a perfect example of the problem that I'm talking about. Rubio isn't up by 18 because of the Republican Party. He's up by 18 because the people of Florida are rejecting what the Republican Party told them to do, which is vote for Charlie Crist. When the Republican Party isn't picking candidates based solely on who they think is going to have the best chance of winning or who's next in line, then they'll have a party of principle, and that's what America is looking for. I don't want a third party. I think that might be a very bad idea, but If that's the only way you get a choice, that's the only way you get a choice. Republicans, don't force a third party. Listen to the people. A few years ago, I had very little hope that the party apparatus would ever see the light. For 5 years, I've been saying to them, please, don't you know what you're doing here? They've shown signs that they are starting to open their eyes. But if we don't keep pointing the flashlight their way, it's never going to happen. Back in a minute. .86% of the American people in a recent poll say the government is broken. The deficit is dangerous, but the biggest deficit we have right now in America is the deficit of trust. America is losing trust, and it's very dangerous. Obama's solution to fixing the government deficit? Well, here's his solution. You ready? He's considering now putting SEIU President Andy Stern on his deficit panel. You got to be... Really? Does he expect the American people to believe he's serious about solving the deficit when he's putting the Workers of the World Unite guy in charge of things? Really? This is a man whose organization is knee-deep in corruption and deception. Deception. See, President Obama seems to put a lot of people around him that are involved in deception. For instance, Acorn. Here's what the president has said about his past relations with Acorn. Watch this.
My relationship to Acorn is pretty straightforward. It's probably 13 years ago, when I was still practicing law, I represented Acorn, and my partner in that representation was the U.S. Justice Department.
How about the funding for Acorn?
You know, frankly, it's not really something I've followed closely. I didn't even know that Acorn was getting a whole lot of federal money.
Okay, so you got that? What? Acorn? Acorn money? I know not of this Acorn you speak of so fondly. Got it? He's not paying attention to what they're doing over at Acorn. And the only involvement he ever had with Acorn, in his own words on video, the only involvement he had, what? Was he did some legal stuff with the Justice Department. But what Obama really says about Acorn, this is from when he was in the Senate. It should open your eyes a bit. Congressman Darrell Issa unearthed this during a House investigation into Acorn. Watch.
And I definitely welcome Acorn's input. You don't have to ask me about that. I'm going to call you, even if you didn't ask me. When I ran Project Vote, voter registration drive in Illinois, Acorn was smack dab in the middle of it. Once I was elected, there wasn't a campaign that Acorn worked on down in Springfield that I wasn't right there with you. Since I've been in the United States Senate, I've been always a partner with Acorn as well. I've been fighting with Acorn, alongside Acorn, on the issues you care about my entire career.
I thought that relationship was pretty straightforward. I thought you said when you were asked a question in a press conference before the election that you did one case with the Justice Department. Some news now the president might want to hear about Acorn is it's dissolving. It's fundamentally transforming its national structure. Here it is. California, Acorn now has broken off. It's now the Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment. What did we tell you on this program last summer? They were going to break off, and we were called nuts by Acorn. They would break off, and they would change their name. New York now is New York Communities for Change. Massachusetts has broke off. It is now reportedly New England United for Justice. And we have an inside source that tells us now that Texas is the next to break off. You know what it means? Nothing. Nothing, except it's going to be harder to watch. Same problem, different name, same drain on your dollars, and the same president who can now really deny and say, I don't even know that organization. This is not the way you build trust in America. You have to earn trust. And at least those in the White House don't understand that. But thankfully, 86% of Americans do. Final thoughts next. You don't want to miss a special show on Friday, a quiz for America. Where do you really fit in on the political spectrum? People, they'll say, I'm a progressive, or I'm a liberal, or I'm a libertarian. Find out what you really are. Questions you need to ask yourself is a quiz. You'll have to fill it out, and then we'll tell you at the end of the episode. Are you a progressive, a conservative, libertarian, Democrat? The answer may surprise you. That's Friday from New York. Good night, America.